They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But what if I told you that the sweetest revenge takes years to perfect? This is a story of how one man turned betrayal into his greatest weapon and made his enemies beg for mercy they would never receive. His name was Marcus Smith, and this is how he destroyed the people who destroyed him. Marcus Smith wasn't special. He wasn't a genius. He wasn't born into wealth. He was just loyal. For 7 years, Marcus worked at Summit Tech Solutions, a mid-sized software company in Seattle. He started as a junior analyst and clawed his way up to senior financial controller through pure dedication and 70-hour work weeks. His boss, Richard Vance, the CFO, trusted him completely. Marcus had access to everything: financial records, client contracts, executive communications. He was the company's backbone, the guy who made sure everything ran smoothly while others took the credit. But there was one person who couldn't stand that: Derek Mills. Derek joined the company 2 years after Marcus. Same position, same ambitions, but half the work ethic. Derek was charismatic, a smooth talker who spent more time networking than working. While Marcus buried himself in spreadsheets, Derek played golf with executives. And Derek wanted Marcus's position. It started small. Derek would make comments in meetings. "Oh, Marcus handles that department, though the numbers have been a bit off lately, haven't they? I'm sure Marcus knows what he's doing, even if his methods are a bit unconventional." Planting seeds of doubt. Death by 1,000 cuts. Then came the quarterly audit. March 15, 2019. A day Marcus would never forget. The auditors found irregularities. $380,000 missing from client escrow accounts. Falsified expense reports. Unauthorized wire transfers to offshore accounts. And every single piece of evidence pointed to Marcus. Marcus was called into a conference room. Richard Vance sat there, his face hard. Derek was there too, looking appropriately concerned. The evidence was overwhelming. Transaction logs with Marcus's login credentials. Emails from Marcus's account authorizing the transfers. Even an offshore bank account in the Cayman Islands registered under a shell company that, when traced, led back to Marcus's social security number. "Marcus, I trusted you," Richard said. "How could you do this?" Marcus tried to defend himself. He stammered through explanations. "I didn't do this. Someone set me up. Those are my transactions." But Richard had already made up his mind. Security will escort you out. We're not pressing charges. Yet, consider that a courtesy for your years of service. But if you fight this, we will bury you. Marcus looked at Derek. For just a split second, Derek's mask slipped. There was a smile there. Small, satisfied, victorious. That's when Marcus knew. Marcus's life imploded overnight. His reputation was destroyed. In the tight-knit Seattle tech finance community, word spread fast. Marcus Smith, the guy who embezzled from Summit Tech? Stay away from him. Job applications went unanswered. His savings dried up paying rent. His girlfriend left him. His parents, immigrants who'd sacrificed everything for his success, were devastated. Marcus spent 3 months in his apartment, drowning in rage and depression. He'd lost everything because of one man's jealousy. Most people would have given up, filed for bankruptcy, left the city, started over somewhere else. But Marcus wasn't most people. One night, unable to sleep, Marcus did what he always did when stressed. He worked. He started digging through old files he'd backed up from Summit Tech Personal Insurance. He called it, just copies of things he'd worked on. And that's when he found it. Hidden in a folder of routine client correspondence was an email thread Marcus had never seen before. It had been BCC'd to his archive folder, probably by accident, but never reached his main inbox. It was from Richard Vance to Summit Tech's biggest client, Meridian Systems. They were negotiating a contract renewal worth $15 million annually. But this wasn't a normal negotiation email. Richard was offering them insider information about competing bids. He was sharing proprietary technology specs from Summit's other clients, a direct violation of NDAs and possibly criminal. And the email chain went back 3 years. There was more. Marcus dug deeper. Richard and Derek had been working together the whole time. Derek had helped Richard set up a kickback scheme with 3 major clients. In exchange for contract renewals and inside information, Richard received consulting fees paid to a shell company. The same shell company later used to frame Marcus. Derek got promoted to Marcus's old position 2 weeks after Marcus was fired. His reward for being the fall guy architect. The fraud Marcus was accused of, it was real, but it wasn't Marcus who committed it. It was Richard Vance, with Derek Mills as his accomplice, and they'd used Marcus as their patsy. Marcus sat in his dark apartment, staring at his laptop screen. He had everything: emails, transaction records, wire transfer receipts, enough evidence to destroy both of them and bring down Summit Tech's entire executive team. One phone call to the SEC, one email to Meridian Systems. It would be over. Richard would go to prison. Derek would be unemployed and facing charges. Summit Tech would collapse in the scandal. Justice served. Revenge delivered. But as Marcus stared at that evidence, something shifted in his mind. This was too easy. Too quick. They'd get arrested, maybe serve a few years, and eventually rebuild their lives. Derek might even write a memoir about his redemption. No, that wasn't enough. Marcus wanted something more. He wanted them to feel what he felt. The slow burn of watching everything crumble. The helplessness. The humiliation. He wanted to win. And he realized the evidence he had wasn't a weapon to use now. It was insurance for later. Protection while he executed something much more devastating. Marcus made a decision that night. He wasn't going to destroy them. He was going to own them. Marcus started small. He took a junior analyst position at Vertex Solutions, Summit Tech's biggest competitor. It was 3 levels below his previous job. The pay was terrible. His coworkers were kids fresh out of college. But Marcus didn't care. He had a plan. During the day, he worked harder than anyone else. He took on extra projects. He volunteered for the grunt work nobody wanted. He made himself indispensable. At night, he studied. He took online courses in corporate strategy, mergers and acquisitions, venture capital. He taught himself coding to better understand the products. He networked obsessively, reaching out to old contacts who didn't believe the rumors about him. And he watched Summit Tech from afar. The company was struggling. Without Marcus running the financial operations smoothly, things were falling apart. Derek was in over his head. Clients were unhappy. The kickback scheme Richard was running couldn't last forever. Marcus smiled. Everything was proceeding exactly as he predicted. Within 18 months at Vertex, Marcus was promoted twice. His bosses called him hungry. They had no idea. Marcus started making strategic suggestions. You know, Summit Tech is vulnerable in the enterprise sector. If we position ourselves correctly, we could steal their 3 biggest clients. His boss loved it. Vertex launched an aggressive expansion, with Marcus leading the charge. And Marcus knew exactly where Summit Tech was weak, because he'd built those systems himself. One by one, Vertex started winning Summit Tech's clients. Meridian Systems, the client involved in Richard's kickback scheme, was approached by Marcus personally. He didn't mention the fraud. Not yet. He just offered a better deal and better service. They switched to Vertex. By year 3, Marcus was VP of Strategic Development at Vertex. He sat in executive meetings. He had equity in the company. He was respected, even admired. Meanwhile, Summit Tech was dying. Stock price down 60%. Major clients gone. Richard Vance was fired by the board. Derek Mills, now CFO of a sinking ship, was desperately trying to keep things afloat. The board put Summit Tech up for sale. And that's when Marcus made his move. Marcus approached Vertex's CEO with a proposal. Summit Tech was available for pennies on the dollar. If Vertex acquired them, they'd eliminate their only remaining competitor and gain valuable patents and technology. It was a good business move. The CEO agreed. Marcus insisted on leading the acquisition personally. He wanted to handle the due diligence, the negotiations, everything. The CEO thought Marcus was just being thorough. He had no idea this was personal. The first negotiation meeting was held at Summit Tech's office. Marcus walked into that building for the first time in 3 years, now wearing a $3,000 suit and carrying the weight of Vertex's corporate power behind him. Derek Mills was in the conference room, looking exhausted. When Marcus walked in, Derek's face went white. "Marcus." Derek's voice cracked. "You're with Vertex?" Marcus smiled. "Cold. Calculated. I'm leading the acquisition. I'll be reviewing all financial records, personnel files, and executive communications. I'm sure everything will be in order." The color drained from Derek's face completely. He knew what that meant. Marcus would see everything. The kickback scheme. The fraud. The evidence of how they framed him. "Marcus, listen, Let's keep this professional." Marcus interrupted. "I'm here to evaluate whether Summit Tech is worth acquiring. I suggest you cooperate fully." Over the next 6 weeks, Marcus tore through Summit Tech's records like a hurricane. He documented every piece of the fraud Richard and Derek had committed. He compiled it all into a detailed report. But he didn't expose them. Not yet. The acquisition closed on a Friday afternoon. Vertex purchased Summit Tech for $8.3 million, a company that had been valued at $50 million just 3 years earlier. Marcus was named president of the newly merged entity. His first day was Monday. That weekend, Derek Mills called Marcus 17 times. Marcus didn't answer. Monday morning, 9 a.m., Marcus called an all-hands meeting at the former Summit Tech office. Employees filed in nervously. They'd heard rumors about layoffs. Acquisitions were always brutal. Marcus stood at the front of the room. And there, sitting in the front row looking like he might vomit, was Derek Mills. "Good morning," Marcus began. "For those who don't know me, my name is Marcus Smith. I worked here 7 years ago as senior financial controller. I was fired for fraud I didn't commit." The room went dead silent. "I'm back now as your new president, and I have some announcements." Marcus pulled up a presentation. Every screen in the room displayed the same thing: the evidence, emails, transaction records, proof of the kickback scheme, proof of the embezzlement, proof that Derek Mills and Richard Vance had framed Marcus Smith. "This," Marcus said calmly, "is what really happened. I provided copies to the SEC, the FBI, and to our legal team. Richard Vance will be arrested by end of day. As for Derek Mills," Marcus turned to look directly at Derek. Their eyes met. Derek looked broken, terrified, defeated. Derek will not be fired. The room erupted in confused murmurs. Marcus continued. "Derek Mills will stay with his company. In fact, he's being promoted. Derek, you're now Senior Vice President of Compliance and Oversight. Your job is to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. You'll report directly to me. Every day, for as long as you work here." Derek's face showed the horror of understanding. This wasn't mercy. This was a prison sentence. "You wanted my job, Derek," Marcus said softly. "You wanted my life. Now you get to watch me live it. You get to work for me, under me, knowing that every success I have is a reminder of what you try to take from me." Marcus turned back to the room. "As for the rest of you, those who had nothing to do with this, your jobs are safe. This company will be rebuilt under my leadership. We're going to be the best in the industry, and you're all going to be part of that." The room slowly began to clap, then cheer. Marcus had just exposed the corruption that had been rotting the company from within. He was a hero to them. But to Derek Mills, sitting in the front row, Marcus Smith was something else entirely. A ghost who came back to haunt him every single day. 3 years later, Summit Tech, now fully integrated into Vertex, was thriving. Under Marcus's leadership, the company had become an industry leader. Marcus was on the cover of Forbes. His parents called him every week, proud beyond words. Derek Mills still worked there. He came in early every morning, stayed late every night, did exactly what Marcus told him to do. He was efficient, obedient, and utterly miserable. Sometimes, Marcus would pass Derek in the hallway. They'd nod at each other, professional, cordial. But in Derek's eyes, Marcus could always see it. The weight of defeat, the knowledge that he was trapped. He couldn't quit. His reputation was destroyed, and this was the only company that would employ him. He couldn't fight back. Marcus had all the evidence, ready to be used if Derek ever stepped out of line. Derek Mills had become a living cautionary tale, A reminder to everyone at the company about what happens when you try to destroy someone who's smarter, more patient, and more ruthless than you are. Richard Vance served 8 years in federal prison for fraud and embezzlement. When he got out, he was unemployable and bankrupt. He worked as a night manager at a grocery store in Tacoma. As for Marcus, he'd learned something valuable through all of this. Revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about winning so completely that they have to watch you succeed while they live with their failure. It's about taking everything they wanted and making it yours. It's about patience, strategy, and playing the long game. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Marcus Smith served it ice cold, and he made his enemy eat it every single day for the rest of his career. So what would you do? Would you have exposed them immediately and gotten quick justice? Or would you have done what Marcus did? Play the long game and make them suffer for years? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe for more revenge tales that'll make you believe in karma.